One of the reasons these two bikes are so interesting to compare is that the SRK 800RR is what many would call a CBR650R copy, or at the very least, heavily inspired by Honda's formula. Both are inline fours, and they even share a very similar physical layout. The cylinder spacing, engine casing design, and even the overall architecture of the QJMotor engine closely resemble Honda's platform. Even the exhaust routing is strikingly similar, with the headers sweeping down to the right-hand side in much the same way. But despite those similarities, the SRK isn't just a direct Honda copy. The engine tuning is noticeably more aggressive, with QJMotor clearly aiming to push the bike deeper into supersport territory. And mechanically, there are some significant differences too. The biggest one is displacement. The SRK packs an extra 129cc, thanks to a longer stroke, while the bore size remains virtually the same. Compression ratio is also very similar, sitting at around 11.6 to 1 on both bikes. So how does all of that translate to power output? As for horsepower, the SRK's bigger engine doesn't really give an advantage in Europe, because both bikes are capped at 95 horsepower to comply with Euro 5+ regulations and also A2 license requirements. The story changes with the global version though. The SRK is rated at around 120 horsepower, which is a pretty significant jump. And since the hardware is largely the same, a simple ECU flash might be all it takes to unlock that extra power. As for torque, this is where the SRK's bigger engine really starts to flex. It makes around 12 Newton meters more than the CBR, and it delivers that torque at much lower RPM. As you know, that usually translates to a more relaxed, lower revving engine with a broader, more usable power band and less need to constantly downshift to stay in the power. Now, when it comes to weight, the SRK is slightly heavier, tipping the scales at around 5 kilograms more than the CBR. That means in European spec form, where both bikes make the same horsepower, the CBR actually holds a slight advantage in power-to-weight ratio. But if we're talking about the unrestricted global version, the SRK easily pulls ahead and leaves the CBR behind. They also make a similar sound, which isn't too surprising given how closely related the engine layouts are. QJMotor didn't just give the SRK a bigger engine than the CBR, it also loaded it up with a much more sophisticated electronics package. The SRK comes equipped with a 6-axis IMU, which gives it cornering ABS and lean-sensitive traction control. The CBR, meanwhile, gets standard ABS and basic non-adjustable traction control. The SRK also gets ride-by-wire throttle, with multiple riding modes, cruise control, and a quick shifter as standard. The CBR doesn't offer any of those features, although it does fight back with Honda's e-clutch system. Both bikes get TFT displays with smartphone connectivity. One thing to keep in mind, though, these specs are based on the European versions. Equipment can vary quite a bit depending on the market. For example, some Southeast Asian versions of the SRK don't get the IMU or quick shifter as standard. Moving on to the chassis, the SRK continues to impress on paper. Both bikes use diamond-type steel frames, and the SRK's design is clearly reminiscent of the CBR's. It's not identical, but you can see the similarities in the way the frame is constructed, with wide beam sections running toward the swing arm pivot area. Interestingly, in the Chinese market, there's even an option to get an aluminum frame for the SRK. As for suspension, the gap gets even bigger. The CBR gets a show of fork that offers no adjustability. The SRK, meanwhile, comes fitted with fully adjustable Italian Marzocchi forks. That's not too surprising, considering Marzocchi's parent company has a partnership with Xinjiang, QJMotor's parent company, and you'll now find Marzocchi components across much of QJMotor's lineup. At the rear, the SRK again gets a fully adjustable shock, while the CBR is limited to preload adjustment only. Braking is another area where the SRK brings premium hardware. It gets 4-piston Brembo front calipers, while the CBR uses Nissan units. Besides the engine and frame, the similarities continue when you look at the dimensions. Both bikes run the same tire sizes, have very similar fuel tank capacities, and even the seat heights are pretty close. The wheelbase is identical too, at 1,450 millimeters. But the biggest difference shows up when you look at the price tag. In the UK, the SRK comes in at around £7,000, while the CBR will set you back about £8,899. So QJMotor basically took the CBR formula and cranked it up a notch. It gets a bigger engine with more torque, more top-end power, and a broader power band. On top of that, it comes packed with a more advanced electronics package, fully adjustable suspension front and rear from a reputable brand, and Brembo brakes. And the crazy part? It still costs significantly less than the Honda. So on paper, the SRK seems like a complete no-brainer. But as always, spec sheets don't tell the whole story. The biggest question mark isn't the performance or the equipment. It's what happens after you buy it. Reliability, dealer support, parts availability, and resale value are still areas where Honda has a massive advantage. With the CBR, you're paying extra for a proven package and a reputation that's been built over decades. So what about you? Would you take a chance on the more capable and better equipped SRK, or stick with the proven and trusted CBR? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell.